the northern tribes, the house of what we call the house of Israel. And that would be the 10 tribes up north. And then the 2 tribes down south were Benjamin and Yehuda. And the Levitical priests were mixed everywhere. They were in all the regions, but they had no land of their own. But anyway, going back to the word Nazarene, that's what we were really called originally. And of course, bending it into the Greek idea, the Greek mind, they naturally took the word Christianos, and that's what they call it now. And they took the term and went running down the road with it, and centuries and centuries later, here we have embraced it and accepted it as actual truth. Because see, the adversary is a usurper and a liar, and wants to twist things just a little bit to get you a little off track. And but there's no way that Hebrew people that speak Hebrew, that were raised in the Torah, that embraced their own Messiah, would call themselves by a foreign term like Christianos. There's not any way that would ever be possible. But it did happen when Gentiles began to take more of the reins. And now in the last days, we're finding out that verses like Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9, when he would restore to us a pure lip and purify our lips, correcting us into these little details. Like, we're not supposed to call him G-O-D. We're not supposed to call him that. We would want to research the Hebrew original name and terms for ascribing a reference to the one that created all things. And naturally, the restoration of the name, the restoration of the lost tribes that are raised, that think they're Gentiles. Generations have been going through the centuries, multiplying, reproducing, spreading their seed around the earth, and they're really lost tribes of Israel mixed in thoroughly, like Amos. I think it's Amos chapter 9 that discusses that that the house of Israel would be sown into the world, into the nations, thoroughly, and in the end times he's going to regather them. If you understand the book of Ezekiel, or Yehezkel, properly, it's all about the scattering of the tribes of Israel into the world, and then the regathering at the end.
For the common person, what is the tribe of Israel? What does that mean?
Well, most people that are Christians, and even people that are raised in Judaism, instantly hear the word Israel and think they're talking about the land of Israel. No, that's not what we're saying. And we're not even talking about the Jews only. See, we're including the Jews, or the Yahudim. But when we say the word Israel, we mean, like in the book of Jeremiah, in chapter 31, it shows that there's a house of Israel, and there's also a house of Yehuda. But then it says when the renewed covenant, or the new covenant, as many people understand it, comes into fruition and operation, that there would just be one restored house of Israel. So Ephraim, which embraces all the tribes of the north, like Zebulun and Naphtali and Reuben and all these other lost tribes, to be combined with the house of Yehuda, which are the Jewish people, and they would become one. And as Ezekiel 36 explains, it's one stick or one tree. In other words, there's 2 fig trees right now, but pretty soon there's going to be just one. When that happens when Messiah Yahusha returns, and he basically just takes over, and then there will Ephraim will not vex Yehuda, and vice versa. In other words, they'll all be one, because right now the house of Yehuda, what we Christians understand as the Jewish people, are operating with the Torah, which is essentially the covenant given at Sinai, and the Talmud, which the two together are sometimes at odds, even though the Talmud is supposedly expanding on the Torah, but yet in doing so, it adds quite a bit. And it has a lot of extraneous historical information in it, too, which is not so harmful in large measure. But because it has been embraced as something almost equal to Torah, it is a somewhat of a threat, because that's what rabbinical Judaism is the Talmud plus the Torah. And that is actually the result of the Pharisees, or the Prushim, who were sectarians. That's what the word Prushim means, or Pharisee. It means literally a separatist, someone who has separated themselves from the whole and consider themselves above them. Hence the word rabbi. That was their title. They took the term rabbi upon themselves. So Pharisee, the term rabbi is actually exclusive to the sect of the Prushim, or the Pharisees. Although Yahusha said, you have one rabbi, and that would be the one who is the Messiah, but no other can be called rabbi. And the reason for that is the word rabbi means exalted one who is exalting himself. That's why he said things like, whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. He was referring to these titles that people bestow upon one another or upon themselves.
That's beautiful.
Anyway, there's
beautiful.
A lot of terminology that hasn't been properly understood, and the word Israel is one of them. The land of Israel belongs to Israel, all the tribes, because it was promised and it's going to be given to Israel, the people of Israel. The government of Israel that's in the land today is not specifically a fulfillment of the regathering, because in the prophecy, the regathering, when it occurs, will happen when Yahusha returns, and then he will gather the outcasts and that were scattered by him, and he will bring them back to the land. And it says very clearly that no one will ever make them afraid. Now, if we take that literally, and we can, because it's Scripture, we know that what is in the land today as a government is not exactly that fulfillment, because although Yehuda has returned, the other tribes have not. And returning to the land is not that's a fulfillment of a prophecy too, but we're really supposed to return to something else first, where we are. Wherever we are on this planet, the scattered tribes are, according to Deuteronomy 4, and if you read Deuteronomy 4 and Deuteronomy 5 and Deuteronomy 6, all those chapters as one, then you're going to see something very eye-popping, because he says, I'm going to scatter you because you would not keep my covenant. You will be outside the land, and then in the very last days, wherever you have been scattered, you will be restored to my covenant. Not to the Talmud, but to the actual Ten Commandments. And from there, you will obey my voice.
Is the Ten Commandments the covenant you're referring to?
That's exactly it. And that's what Israel corporately, the 12, actually 13 tribes, stood at the base of Sinai and agreed as a wife to say, all that you say we will do and obey. In other words, just like a bride, Israel said, we will obey their husband, And Yahuwah called himself Israel's husband. Now, when that happened, the covenant was accepted by the wife. And of course, it was recorded in 2 tablets, one for the husband. There were 10 words. That's what it's actually literally called. It's Asareth Hadabarim, which means the 10 words. And those 10 words were inscribed by the finger of Yahuwah, and one was for the bride, and one was for the husband, a separate tablet written on both sides, and it was placed into the ark of the covenant, because see, if the covenant isn't the 10 words, if it's something other than that, then what was it that was in the ark of the covenant? See, the word covenant actually in the Hebrew is brief.